Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're heading over to India, March 9th, 2025. And it looks like a pretty interesting day shaping up over there. So we've got everything from cricket fever hitting its peak to some, really unsettling stories about crime and tragedy, but also a lot of exciting developments in politics and technology.
Yeah, it's incredible. You look at the headlines and you think, wow, this is a lot going on, but it's all interconnected. It's all part of what's making India tick right now. And, from the highs of a Champions Trophy final to, the worries about the economy, it's all part of the bigger picture.
It really is. And, speaking of that Champions Trophy final, let's jump right into that because India and New Zealand are facing off. And, it's more than just a game at this point, right?
Oh, absolutely not. This is a rivalry that's been building up, especially with New Zealand kind of, you know, having the upper hand lately. They swept India 3-0 in that recent test series. And the Champions Trophy itself, I mean, it carries a lot of weight. And for India, it's a chance to kind of, get back on top.
So, yeah, like a bit of a grudge match then. And India's playing on home turf in Dubai, but New Zealand's been playing in similar conditions recently over in Pakistan. So,
Yeah.
do you think that familiarity gives India an edge, or is New Zealand's ability to adapt going to be the deciding factor?
Well, Dubai's conditions definitely favor India's spinners. Those guys have been amazing. Varun and Axar have taken like 14 wickets against both New Zealand and Australia in earlier matches, but I wouldn't count New Zealand out. They've been playing really well recently, and, they can definitely adjust their strategy.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a close one then.
Yeah.
Uh, who should we be watching out for in this match? Who are the key players?
Well, all eyes are going to be on Kohli and Williamson. Those are the veterans. But the real game changers could be the younger guys. Rechin Ravindra for New Zealand, Shreyas Iyer for India. Those guys can really explode and change the game in an instant.
Yeah, for sure. I'll definitely be watching that one. But let's move on to a much more serious story now, a horrific crime that's really shocked the nation. In Karnataka, an Israeli woman and her Indian host were attacked while they were out stargazing with some friends, and their companions were actually pushed into a canal during the attack.
It's just an awful incident, and it really raises some serious concerns about women's safety in India, especially, for tourists.
Yeah.
The fact that it happened in a place that you think of as, peaceful and safe, like a stargazing spot. I mean, it just shows you how unpredictable these things can be.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder that even though things are improving, there's still a long way to go when it comes to protecting women in India.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. The police have already arrested 2 of the suspects, but they're still looking for the third one. And this case has really, captured the attention of the nation. And it really demands, a much broader approach to tackling the root causes of this kind of violence.
Let's hope that justice is served quickly and that this can be a turning point for real change. Okay, so now let's shift gears and talk about politics. Yogi Adityanath, the chief minister of Uttar Pradesh, he's made a pretty bold prediction saying that the BJP, the Bharatiya Janata Party, is going to win a landslide victory in the 2027 assembly elections.
Yeah, he's actually projecting an 80% majority, which is huge. I mean, remember, they already won a pretty significant majority in 2022, 291 out of 403 seats. But 80% is a whole other level.
Yeah.
So you have to wonder what's behind that confidence. Is it, real public support? Is this some political maneuvering, or maybe a bit of both?
Yeah, it's a really bold statement. It's like he's saying, try and stop us. And what's interesting is he's also downplaying his own role in all of this, saying that he's just a yogi dedicated to serving the country. It's almost like he's trying to deflect attention while also, adding to the intrigue.
It's very clever politically. He's avoiding any direct confrontation with potential rivals within the BJP while still, holding on to his influence and projecting this image of humility.
Yeah, very strategic.
Yeah.
Well, just a yogi or not. His prediction has definitely shaken things up in Indian politics.
Gotcha.
Okay, let's move on to the global stage. Now, U.S.-India trade talks have just started, but it seems like things are already getting a bit complicated.
Yeah, former President Trump said that India had agreed to lower tariffs on American products, but Indian officials were quick to deny that. So it shows you right away how sensitive and complex these negotiations are.
Yeah, it seems like India wants to, improve their trade relationship with the U.S., which is obviously a major player. But they also need to protect their own interests and their domestic industries.
Absolutely, and that's where the Congress Party's criticism comes in. They're saying that the government is giving too much away to the U.S. and that it could hurt India's economy in the long run. They think that India should have pushed for a temporary pause on those reciprocal tariffs that Trump put in place, like Mexico and Canada did when they were negotiating with the U.S.
So essentially, they're saying that India needs to be more assertive and put their own interests first.
Exactly. They're worried about, Chinese goods flooding the market and hurting small businesses and just general economic instability if India doesn't play its cards, right?
These trade talks are definitely going to be interesting to watch as they develop. But now let's switch gears and talk about something a bit more positive. India is launching its first hydrogen-powered train in May.
That's a big deal, not just for India's railway system, which is massive, but also for, the whole world moving towards greener transportation. I mean, this train has a 1,200 horsepower engine, which makes it the most powerful hydrogen train in the world. It's a real sign of how much India is investing in cutting-edge technology.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And they're not stopping there. They're already working on a 9,000 horsepower locomotive in Gujarat, and they're comparing its design to a data center. What does that even mean? How can a train be like a data center?
Well, it's not about how it looks, but the level of technology involved. This new locomotive is going to be incredibly complex with a level of computing power that's similar to a data center. It's a huge leap forward in train engineering, and it shows you just how ambitious India is.
It seems like India is really pushing the boundaries in a lot of different areas, green technology, international trade.
Yeah, it's a country that's really trying to define its own path in the world.
But along with all this progress, there are also some really tragic stories happening, like the death of an Indian man who was caught up in a job scam in Jordan.
It's a truly heartbreaking story. This man, Thomas Gabriel Pereira, he was from Kerala, and he was promised a well-paying job overseas. He paid a lot of money for this opportunity, only to find out that it was all a lie. He and his brother-in-law were forced to cross the border into Israel illegally, and they were ambushed. Tragically, Pereira was killed, and his brother-in-law was badly injured.
It's just a reminder that even with all the progress and ambition, there are still people facing terrible hardship and exploitation.
And it shows, how important it is to make sure that economic growth benefits everyone and that people are protected from these kinds of scams.
Okay, so now let's get back to sports. But this time it's football, not cricket.
Right.
Indian football fans are celebrating because their legendary captain, Sunil Chhetri, has decided to come out of retirement at the age of 40.
That's incredible. He's a real national icon, India's all-time top goal scorer, and he announced his retirement last year, but now he's back and wants to help India qualify for the 2027 Asian Cup. It says a lot about his dedication to the sport and to his country.
It sounds like the head coach, Manolo Marquez, really convinced him to come back, which is huge for the team's morale. And I'm sure the fans are hoping that Chhetri can lead them to victory.
Chhetri's return is more than just about football. It's a story about passion and resilience and national pride, and I think it'll really inspire a new generation of footballers in a country where cricket is still king.
Yeah, it's a great story. And it reminds us that even when things seem impossible, individual dedication and the pursuit of a common goal can really make a difference and create these moments of hope and inspiration.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is. And speaking of captivating narratives, let's get back to that Champions Trophy final for a minute. Shubman Gill, India's vice captain, he's been in the news a lot lately, not just for his incredible batting, but also because of how he's been handling all those rumors going around about the team.
Yeah, Gill's been pretty upfront about it all, praising the team's batting lineup, saying it's the strongest he's ever seen. And he totally shut down those rumors about Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli thinking about retirement. He's like laser focused on winning that Champions Trophy. Yeah, wants to keep everyone focused on what's important.
Yeah, you can really see his leadership there, blocking out all the distractions, keeping the team unified, and reminding them what the goal is. It's got to be powerful for a younger player like him to step up like that, especially with all the pressure of a big final.
For sure. It's great to see that kind of confidence and determination. Okay, so while the cricket team is all about unity and working together, it seems like things are a bit more divided in the political world, especially when it comes to those U.S.-India trade talks. The Congress Party, they're really not happy with how the government's been handling the negotiations. They're saying that Modi is basically giving in to Trump's demands.
The Congress Party is worried about what these concessions could mean for India in the long run. They're concerned about hurting domestic industries, especially with that Make in India initiative, which is all about boosting local manufacturing. They think India should have been tougher in the negotiations. Try to get a break on those tariffs that Trump put in place, just like Mexico and Canada did.
So basically they're saying that making a deal with the U.S. shouldn't come at the expense of India's own economic stability and interests.
Right. They're saying that this is a chance for India to stand up for itself economically and not become too dependent on any one country, even a powerful one like the U.S. They want the government to think long-term and put India's needs first.
It definitely seems like a hot-button issue. Raising questions about economic policy, national sovereignty, India's role in the world.
Right.
Okay, so zooming out a bit, we've talked about a lot of different things today, but there's a theme that keeps coming up, this idea of India balancing big dreams and ambitions with a lot of uncertainty.
You hit the nail on the head. On one hand, you see this incredible drive for progress, whether it's that amazing hydrogen train or pushing for renewable energy or the goal of becoming a global economic leader. But on the other hand, there are all these worries about the economy, about making sure everyone benefits from the growth, and figuring out how to navigate a world that's constantly changing.
It's like walking a tightrope, isn't it? Trying to move forward without losing your balance.
Exactly. And you can see that tension in things like the stock market. It just took a massive hit, losing $1.3 trillion, which really spooked investors. And then you have these devastating stories like that job scam tragedy, which shows how vulnerable people can be when they're just trying to find a better life.
Yeah, those stories are important reminders that progress isn't always smooth, and that even when amazing things are happening, there are still huge challenges that need to be addressed.
It's all about looking at the big picture, thinking about the human cost of economic policies and making sure that everyone benefits from the progress.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into India's headlines, what are the key takeaways? What connects all these different stories?
I think the biggest takeaway is just how dynamic and complex India is. It's a country that's constantly changing a mix of tradition and innovation, ambition, and resilience. We've seen incredible sporting achievements, worries about the economy, the horrors of crime, and inspiring stories of individual determination.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. So to our listeners, we leave you with this question. India keeps moving forward, trying to achieve its goals and face its challenges. What story from today will have the biggest impact in the long run? Will it be the focus on clean energy, the drive to become an economic superpower, or maybe the fight for social justice and equality?
It's a question worth thinking about because, in the end, India's future is still being written, and all of these stories are playing a part in shaping what that future will look like.
Yeah, it really is. And it's hard to pick just one. That hydrogen-powered train is a pretty big deal. It shows how serious India is about innovation and sustainability, and that could really change their transportation system and help them fight climate change. But then you have those trade talks with the U.S., which could have a huge impact on their economy and their relationship with a global superpower.
It's true. You've got those two sides, pushing the limits with technology and trying to figure out how to deal with other countries on the world stage. Both of those are going to be super important for India as they grow and become more influential.
Yeah, and we can't forget about the human side of all of this. Those stories like Sunil Chhetri coming back to play for his country, and then that awful tragedy with Thomas Gabriel Pereira. It just reminds you that progress is really about their hopes and their struggles and their strength.
Absolutely. Behind all the headlines and the numbers, there are real people living their lives. Stories of hope and heartbreak, ambition and sacrifice.
It makes you realize that India is so much more than just a collection of news stories. It's a country full of people with different experiences and perspectives.
Exactly. And by trying to understand those different viewpoints and experiences, we can get a much better sense of what India is all about, the good and the bad.
So to wrap things up, we want to encourage you, our listeners, to keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep trying to connect the dots, because India's story is far from over. It's a story that's being written every single day in every headline in every person's life. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.